Welcome to Pocket Chat number 7, sponsored by the joint Chicago Bar Association, Chicago Bar Foundation Task Force on the Sustainable Practice of Law and Innovation. I'm Mary Ann Mason. I'm a co-chair of the task force and secretary of the Chicago Bar Foundation. I'm joined today by Kristen Sonday. Kristen is a member of our National Advisory Council. She's also the co-founder and chief operating officer of Paladin. Before we start talking about our recommendation here, Kristen, first of all, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. No, thanks for having me.
And I wanted to ask you, in case people viewing this Pocket Chat aren't familiar with Paladin, what Paladin does.
Of course. So Paladin's mission is to increase access to justice by helping legal teams run more efficient pro bono programs. So we work with a number of large law firms, in-house corporate teams, and bar associations to help increase pro bono engagement while decreasing the administrative costs of actually running their programs.
So you do, Paladin does what the firms would otherwise have to do if they wanted their attorneys to engage in pro bono work.
Right, so we work with firms that have, full-time pro bono teams. We work with other firms that have folks working on the pro bono program part-time, but really our whole goal is to think about how do we curate pro bono intake, distribute matters to the right attorneys at the right time, and really report on the firm's impact so that we can maximize pro bono engagement and ultimately the outcome of all the incredible work that they're doing.
Terrific. We're here to talk about recommendation number 7, which came out of what we refer to as the Optimizing Committee. And it is to establish a new position called a Community Justice Navigator. Tell me about that.
Of course. So the Legal Services Corporation estimates every year that approximately 71% of low-income households experience at least one civil legal issue. But most people don't recognize these problems as legal, right? They just see them as general problems. And then once they realize that their problem is legal, they don't necessarily know where to go or how to navigate the justice system. And the court system in particular can be really hard to figure out, and the stakes are really high in these cases. So we wanted to give people access to folks in their communities who could help them assess whether an issue was in fact legal, and then direct them to high quality resources to help them navigate them accordingly.
How are you going to locate these community justice navigators?
Yeah, of course. So the idea that we're proposing is to enter an administrative order and a policy statement creating a position of a community justice navigator. And these community-based navigators would operate within existing and trusted community institutions like public libraries, schools, religious institutions, and offices of local legislators. And the program would build off of the already successful JusticeCorps model within the courts. And we're really excited about the possibility to help scale what's already been working well within the courts to bring these resources to local community leaders.
This is what I love about the recommendations of this task force. On the one end of the spectrum, we're trying to harness the power of technology and to bring the legal profession into the 21st century. This sounds like a throwback recommendation. I can remember when in neighborhoods, there would be storefront law offices where a member of the community could make an appointment or just walk in and talk to a lawyer who they already knew from the community. Is this that kind of backward-looking recommendation?
Sure. I like to think of it as forward-looking, but I think you're right in that we're going kind of back to basics and that we're making law more accessible from like a grassroots level. So these navigators, the vision is for them to receive specialized training for free that would allow them to help the public identify legitimate sources of information or make good referrals. So these navigators would be able to use pre-approved online resources. They would be able to help with e-filing and other procedural advice. They can assist with the completion of Illinois Supreme Court approved standardized court forms, and then make referrals to local legal aid organizations. And the vision is that they would be certified to run through a program created by the Access to Justice Commission, similar to the current model for interpreters. So they would not be permitted to actually practice law, and part of that training received would be to include instructions on their boundaries between their function and the unauthorized practice of law.
I assume there are already people in various communities performing these functions. Are there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are already leaders locally who have good relationships with the Bar Association and other organizations that do provide either pro bono resources or low bono. And then on the other hand, we do have folks that are a bit more predatory. They're not pre-approved by any organization associated with the court. So we want to make sure that these folks who are resources and who are accessible to other people in the community to help them are vetted somehow and given, they're equipped with resources to help manage these inbound interests and requests through more formalized and approved channels.
It sounds like the certification and training that this recommendation proposes for community justice navigators would give members of the public some level of comfort that the information that they're getting from this source is accurate and reliable.
Right, that's a great point. So we want to make sure that we're optimizing for community trust through this model, and we're also optimizing for accuracy and protecting the public. So we want to make sure that these community navigators are well trained, they have resources readily accessible to them, and they know how to correctly direct people when they do encounter a legal issue.
Is there any example you could give me of the type of problem that somebody in a community might experience that would lead them to seek out a community justice navigator?
Sure. So I think in general, let's say a Chicago resident today has an issue. He thinks it might be a legal one. And currently he would probably ask a buddy what to do or try to go online to find an answer to his problem. And that friend might not necessarily know where to go from there, or they might not necessarily make a reliable referral. Online resources might be incorrect. They might be predatory in some way. So we want to make sure that that person has somewhere trusted and well-educated where they can go to seek help. So if this recommendation is adopted by the Illinois Supreme Court, instead, this resident could go to a trusted community member, such as a librarian, a public official, a religious leader, someone within the school community, and that navigator could assist him in finding and completing proper paperwork he might need for court, or at least connect him to a legal aid organization, or online resources that could assist that have already been vetted.
Well, Kristen, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about our Community Justice Navigator recommendation, and thanks for joining me.
Of course, thanks so much for having me. I think, like you said, bringing this back to the basics, back to the grassroots level is really going to be significant to increasing trust within the communities and helping increase access to justice. So really excited to propose and support this proposal.
And if you're watching this Pocket Chat and you'd like to learn more, please go to the Chicago Bar Foundation's website, chicagobarfoundation.org. There you can access the entire task force report, more Pocket Chats, and most importantly, our feedback form. We would love to hear from you about the recommendations that the task force is making. So please visit our website. Thanks again.